plant the seed, give it some sun, and let it grow. It's a beautiful thing, right? Yeah, but growth unchecked can cause problems. Sometimes it needs to be pruned or shaped. Prudent pruning. That's our topic on this episode of the Educators Among Us podcast.
Welcome to the Educators Among Us podcast, where we share motivational messages and inspiring stories for and about educators. Your host, Scott Barron, is author of the critically acclaimed book, Love 'Em and Lead 'Em, and provides powerful insights and wisdom for those who heed the call to teach, coach, lead, and serve at all levels of education.
This is Scott Barron, and I'm honored to be your host for the Educators Among Us podcast. We love being a part of the lives of educators, of all kinds of educators, all around the world. It doesn't matter what their role is. It matters that they are willing to invest in the lives of other people. People like me and you, right? Where we care enough to be prepared to navigate the changes of life and to take on the challenges of sometimes friction and conflict and challenges of challenges, where we challenge people to grow and to get outside their comfort zone and find better ways and new ways and to overcome the obstacles. That's what educators do. And it's such a privilege to be a part of that work and be an encouragement for you as you do that every day and throughout the consequences of sometimes hard decisions and dealing with relationships. And that's been a big theme as a part of what we've been working through this year, has been recognizing that the relationships that we maintain and seek to build, they're important. They're important to our success. They're important to our own lives, but they also, it's a part of our chosen work here is learning how to build relationships with our colleagues, with parents, with students, and others, because that's the nature of the work. It's learning how to build healthy relationships and sustain those. That's just part of being an educator. And growing things. I like to use the sort of the analogy of a grapevine. That's actually a book that we're publishing later this year on the laws of the grapevine. And if you go to a vineyard, you'll notice that it's a very lush environment. Somebody there has a green thumb, as they say, right? They know how to grow things. They know how to take care of things. And there's different seasons, right? And sometimes the spring season where we are now, there's a time for pruning, where you kind of cut things back and you realize that you have to shape it up, or some things have gotten out of whack and we have to kind of balance out, or we replant things. Some things we pull out. We're weeding, and we're putting in some new plants. We're fertilizing, and there's just some different seasons. And we as educators, we go through seasons of life, and schools go through seasons. Some of our members of the School Growth Network are going through leadership changes right now, and they're navigating some of those challenges. And of course, that's where leadership really happens, is in those transitions. And then there's others that, they're trying to figure out how to now take the next steps on their journey to excellence. And others are in a regroup phase. They've gone through some challenges and now they're wanting to chart a new course and figure out a way to almost reinvent themselves as they move into a very significant era of education and change and innovation. And the change happens, and that's part of our journey. But sometimes when we go through that, there are changes that have to happen. There are changes in the relationships that we have, and sometimes we have to limit relationships, cut off relationships, start new relationships. It's part of the season, right? Steve Marabali once said, "Hey, letting go means to come to the realization that some people are part of our history, but not a part of our destiny." I mean, there's some people that we've had relationships with in the past, and sometimes we have to make a call. There are certain rules that apply for individuals, but also for organizations, and for us to be authentic, to have integrity, to be true to who we say we are and to what our purpose is, we have to make decisions. My dad once planted a wisteria vine in our backyard. with the best of intentions. I mean, that vine, the first few years, it produced beautiful purple flowers, and you could look at it and just go, "Isn't that cool?" But eventually it grew out of control. No one was there to prune it and take care of it, and so it became invasive. I mean, it just spread all over the place through a very aggressive root system and vines. It began taking over things. It was choking out trees and other plants, and it was crazy. I call it the devilish vine, right? It was exhausting trying to dig up all those vines and roots and to end their tyranny of the backyard. It was meant for the right thing, and it had some beauty to begin with, but it faded because of what we began to realize the risks of a wisteria vine. Now, I found that some people are like that. They start off as collegial. They start off with great relationships. They've got all these abilities and talents in the school season. Back at the beginning of the school year, man, they just looked like they were going to be an amazing addition to the team. But eventually, you got to see their heart. Eventually you see that, well, they actually have disruptive intentions and they have dangerous gaps in their core values. They don't align. They maybe have wonderful credentials and experience, but they're quite difficult to work with. They actually don't contribute well to the culture, and they're divisive, and they don't collaborate, and they like to kind of run their little four-wall kingdom or office and be separate. There's no us, there's just them, right? And so, we go through different seasons. We have people who intentionally create conflict, or there may be some people who they're not new. They've been here for a while. And back in the day, it made sense. They were a good fit, but times change, seasons change, and leaders have to make hard decisions, right? We have to decide who's the best fit going forward. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "I will not allow anyone to walk in my mind with dirty feet." Right? I'm going to limit the influence of people who like to leave trails of debris and mud and dirt because it's just not worth it. Our minds are things that we have to protect. Our hearts we have to guard them because we're all vulnerable. We all have that ability to be persuaded by people and taking us down a path that's not the best path, right? We have to maintain some healthy boundaries, right? And there's always there's a wisdom that has to come to that from that. It's not just cutting people off, but it is recognizing that we have to make decisions and make sure that we're including people in our relationships where we do have options. In some places we don't. We have to take care of our parents. We have to take care of our other relationships that are vital to just our responsibilities. But in some places we have choices, and regardless of their substantial qualifications and historic connections, right? It's both unwise and unethical to permit some people to have unchecked influence. Some people just need to go use their talents somewhere else. And this may feel counterintuitive or even harsh, right? But understanding and respecting this relational principle, it's crucial to our cause. It's crucial to our culture, right? And as well as to our credibility, right? These are decisions that we all have to make. We have to figure out who's going to be on the team and why, and make sure that where we're going is a good match with the people that we are working with and in relationship with, right? Discernment in relationships is critical. Why do we continue to allow people to walk in our minds, in our hallways, in our classrooms with such dirty feet? I mean, that's a decision that has to be evaluated, because healthy and vibrant schools, they require thoughtfulness around who's on the team. That's part of the journey, right? Discernment in relationships requires us to exercise grace with accountability, right? And that's a tension that we have to hold, where we've got this, this willingness and this desire to want to help people grow and not to hang on to grudges or to hold people to levels of judgment. But while we also have to have this accountability of leadership and of relationship and this work that we have to do together, we have to hold that in a healthy tension and do the wise things, right? Don't be deceived. Don't be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals. Now, this was Paul's guidance in 1 Corinthians 15:33, and it was given within the context of, hey, there are some people who are teaching things that, hey, it does not match up. It's not right. It's untrue. So be careful when you hang around people that are teaching you things that are not true. It's going to corrupt your spirit. You got to guard your heart. You have to guard your mind. We all do. It's not just it wasn't just the Corinthians. We all go through those challenges and have to have those boundaries. Individuals and organizations should be understood differently in this regard, though. Right? In other words, there are things that that we do in relationship to people that sometimes God puts people in our lives for us to take care of them, to be a mentor to them. Right? The peacemakers and the merciful have a place of honor. If you remember the Beatitudes, right? They have a place of honor by seeking reconciliation. They try to restore relationships. They figure out a way to be humble and to restore those connections together. Some people come into our lives as opportunities for ministry and guidance and support and mentorship, etc. But it's different. It's different for those who lead organizations. Sometimes we allow a tolerance. Sometimes they may use the term grace, but it's usually, unfortunately, making decisions out of fear, which leads to corruption. It leads to mediocrity. It leads to really a compromise in our authenticity. Right? That we have to be really careful that leaders have a moral obligation to make difficult decisions. That they have to make difficult people decisions, and they have to do that with courage and clarity. They have to lean into it, own it, and be very clear about where they're going and with their vision, and then having the accountability. They have to assess attitude and results. And they have to look at both, as well as the practice and process, right? To regroup for each year. That's what leaders do, right? And sometimes they can't explain why we're making a decision. Sometimes it's the right thing to do, and you can't air it out for everybody. And that's what makes I've found school leadership particularly difficult, is you can't go into all the details. You just have to know it's the right thing. It's the thing that we have to do now, right? We try to make the best decisions available, and then we press on in the journey. We're not going to continue to sort of be mired in an indecision nor in questioning our decisions. We have to go, even though a lot of other people may want to push back. Others want to call into question our very integrity and our decision-making process, et cetera. Leaders have to lead. And that's the journey that we all go through. We all have to have a prudence in relationships, a discernment in how we build our friendships, as well as our who's on the team for our school and our faculty and our staff. And it's hard, but it's necessary, right? Prune with prudence this week. Prune your network. Use this season as a time to reflect and consider where you need to plant some new people, where you need to prune some people out, where you need to fertilize some relationships, where you need to add some water, right? Where you need to build up, right? Because, my friend, thoughtfully choosing those who influence your heart and mind, along with those you influence, that's part of growing up. That's part of loving and leading people. And we're all faced with those challenges, and I hope that you're able to use some of this as perspective for your own life. Again, we want to be very cautious here, where we're not. Sometimes there's advice given to just kind of cut off those who are have conflicting expectations with you or making you uncomfortable. Hey, you need some of those people in your life sometimes, right? You have to. There's no black and white answers here, and sometimes you have people coming into your life that gives you a real hope and responsibility. There's others that can take you down a path that is just so destructive, and we've actually seen that happen in some of our family and friends relationships. And you watch it and you try to provide some caution, and sometimes they have to go through it on their own. It's sometimes unfortunate to watch from the outside, but we have to be careful. We have to be really careful about who is speaking into our lives and how we speak into other people's lives as well. Sometimes we have to be really careful. Sometimes we're not the one getting rid of the devilish vine. Sometimes we're the vine. Sometimes we're the vine, right? And so we have to be careful. A coaching question to ask yourself at the end of each day: did I do my best to prune with prudence today? Did I do my best to prune with prudence today? Hey, love him and lead him, my friend. This is Scott.
Thank you for joining us for the Educators Among Us podcast and for your courageous commitment to this noble calling. We get you and the challenges of this work. To stay connected with this community, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and weekly encouragement at educatorsamongus.com.